Some conservative commentators now taking a very different view of Julian Assange. Here's what Sean Hannity told the WikiLeaks founder during their interview in London.
And I've told you this before, when you first came on the scene in 2010, I was concerned you were waging war against the U.S. I've come to believe that you've done two things that have been extraordinarily helpful to the United States, and I think journalism in a way. One is you showed us that we do not have cybersecurity. You acknowledge that. And two, I think in this election in particular, you exposed a level of corruption that I, for 30 years on the radio as a conservative, knew existed.
Amy Holmes, it looks like some conservative commentators who despise Julian Assange as a left-winger who was endangering U.S. national security and secrets are now making him into a bit of an icon. I'm not just talking about Hannity here, because he damaged the Democrats during the election.
Well, I think actually that among conservatives that there were a lot of mixed views about Julian Assange, particularly when it came to Bradley Manning and Edward Snowden, because national security issues were at stake. And now there are still mixed views of Julian Assange. If you read hotair.com or powerlineblog.com, they take what Julian Assange has to say with a lot of salt. There's a lot of holding the nose at the source of this, but looking at exactly what he did expose and whether or not that was helpful to Republicans in the election.
Chuck, 6 years ago, Sarah Palin likened Julian Assange to a terrorist when WikiLeaks published her personal emails, which she says were boring. She just apologized to him on her Facebook page. So what's going on here?
What's going on here is that people don't have principles. That this is the cancer of American politics, which is that people will believe or say what suits their partisan interests in the short term.
And both parties do this.
It's an across-the-board phenomenon. And of course, you know, now we have a lot of people who used to lionize Julian Assange talking about what a menace he is. That's going on as well. No, this is the fundamental problem with American politics across the board, is that people no longer make principled arguments, they make opportunistic arguments. And this is simply just a particularly galling and extreme case of it.
Aaron McPike, here's what Donald Trump tweeted. The dishonest media, he says, like saying that I am in agreement with Julian Assange, wrong. I simply state what he states. It is for the people. Here's a very brief exchange. You might have seen this clip this week of Donald Trump, then businessman, billionaire, talking to Brian Kilmeade about WikiLeaks.
You got nothing to do with the leaking of those documents. Disgraceful. You do think it's disgraceful?
I think this should be like death penalty or something.
So an evolution of views about Assange?
Maybe so. You know, that's the principle that we like to call in the media saving the tape. So, you know, we might see the rest of the conservative elites who are now, you know, siding with Assange flipping back if at some point WikiLeaks put out more about what's going on in the government in the next couple of years in Trump's administration, because inevitably things will go wrong.
Briefly, I want to get one more thing in. MSNBC's Joe Scarborough accused Republicans of hypocrisy and said Sean Hannity was having a bromance with Assange. Well, Hannity tweeted back that Morning Joe had used part of the interview, and Joe, what's really repulsive, says Hannity, is the pathetically low ratings you have on the network that colluded with Hillary Clinton. So it's getting heated there.
I'll let them have their food fight and watch. But, you know, conservatives have always had a very conflicted attitude towards Julian Assange. I remember when I worked at The Blaze, there was this feeling of love the sin, hate the sinner. The information is important. How we're getting it, that's something we need to look more closely at.